An archipelago of thousands of islands, a melting pot of ancestral cultures, a puzzle that challenges time. The Philippines, a mosaic of peoples and traditions, hides within its roots millennia-old stories that echo biblical accounts. Could it be possible that, amidst so many islands and cultures, we find traces of this people's origins in the sacred pages of the Bible? An intriguing journey awaits us, uncovering ancient mysteries that link this nation to biblical narratives. Did the dispersion of peoples after the Tower of Babel reach the distant lands of the Philippines? How did the lineages of Noah intertwine with the first inhabitants of this archipelago? As we explore the scriptures, we find in Genesis, chapter 10, the so-called Table of Nations, which describes the descendants of Noah's sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. The descendants of Ham, in particular, migrated to various regions, including what we now know as Africa and parts of Asia. This dispersion could have led some of these peoples to sail across the oceans, reaching the islands that form the Philippines. The search for the origins of the Filipinos leads us to explore the history of navigation and migration of ancient peoples. The Negritos, considered the first inhabitants of the Philippines, may have arrived on the archipelago thousands of years ago, coming from other parts of Asia. Subsequent waves of Austronesian peoples also shaped the Filipino population, bringing with them their own cultures and traditions. Among these peoples, we may find possible descendants of Ham, son of Noah, whose tribe spread across vast areas of the world. The influence of animism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam in the Philippines also gives us clues about possible biblical connections. The arrival of these religions brought new cultures and traditions, which mixed with the beliefs and customs of the native peoples. The Islamic kingdoms ruled by datus, rajas, and sultans, for example, demonstrate the religious and cultural diversity that developed in the archipelago over the centuries. In addition to religious influences, trade with empires such as the Tang and Song also left its mark on the Filipino population. The arrival of Chinese immigrants, who settled in the archipelago and mixed with the local population, contributed to the formation of the rich ethnic and cultural diversity we find in the Philippines today. By exploring these historical and cultural connections, we can begin to sketch an overview of the possible biblical origins of the peoples of the Philippines, unraveling the mysteries that link this nation to the ancient sacred scriptures. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes of this series. The arrival of Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese navigator in the service of the Crown of Castile, marked the beginning of the Spanish colonial era. In 1543, Ruy López de Villalobos, a Spanish explorer, named the archipelago Las Islas Filipinas, in honor of King Philip II of Castile. Spanish domination, exercised through New Spain, began in 1565 and subjected the Philippines to the rule of the Kingdom of Castile, integrating it into the vast Spanish Empire for over 300 years. During this time, Catholic Christianity became the predominant religion, and Manila rose as the nerve center of trans-Pacific trade. The Philippine Revolution, sparked in 1896, coincided with the Spanish-American War of 1898. After Spain's defeat, the territory was ceded to the United States, and the Filipino revolutionaries declared the First Philippine Republic. The subsequent Philippine-American War consolidated U.S. control of the territory. This hegemony lasted until the Japanese invasion during World War II. After the islands were retaken by the United States, the Philippines gained its independence in 1946. The country experienced a period of democratic turmoil, marked by the overcoming of a decades-long dictatorship through a peaceful revolution. Exploring the etymology of the name Philippines, during his 1542 expedition, Ruy López de Villalobos honored the Prince of Asturias, future Philip II, by naming the islands of Leyte and Samar the Philippines. Over time, the name Las Islas Filipinas came to designate all Spanish possessions in the archipelago. Previously, the Spaniards used other names to refer to the islands in the region, such as Islas del Poniente, Islas del Oriente, and San Lazaro. During the Philippine Revolution, the Malolos Congress declared the Philippine Republic. The American colonial authorities adopted the name Philippine Islands, a translation of the Spanish name. With the enactment of the Philippine Autonomy Act and the Jones Act, the United States began to use the name Philippines. The official title, the Republic of the Philippines, was established in the 1935 Constitution as the name of the future independent state and was maintained in all subsequent constitutional revisions. The ethnic diversity of the Philippines is remarkable, the result of external influences and the archipelago's geographical fragmentation. According to the 2020 census, the largest ethnic groups in the country are the Tagalogs, Visayans, Ilocanos, Cebuanos, Hiligaynon, Bicolanos, and Waray. In addition to these, the country is home to 110 indigenous ethno-linguistic groups, such as the Igorot, Lumad, Mangyan, and the indigenous peoples of Palawan. An Aboriginal minority, descended from Australord peoples, represents a remnant of the earliest human migrations from Africa to Australia, later supplanted by other waves of migration. Ethnic Filipinos belong to various Southeast Asian ethnic groups, linguistically classified as Austronesians, whose languages fall under the Polynesian branch. Although the precise origin of the Austronesian population remains uncertain, it is believed that ancestors of the Taiwanese Aborigines introduced their languages and intermingled with local populations. The Lumad and Samabajau ethnic groups share ancestral ties with Austronesian peoples such as the Tin and Mlabri of mainland Southeast Asia. Additionally, evidence suggests an expansion from southern Indonesia and Papua New Guinea towards Mindanao, detected in groups like the Bilan and the Sangir language. Immigrants from other regions of the Spanish Empire, especially from Spanish America, arrived in the Philippines. A 2016 National Geographical study revealed that the inhabitants of the Philippine archipelago have a genetic composition with the following proportions: 53% Southeast Asian and Oceania, 36% East Asian, 5% Southern European, 3% South Asian, and 2% North American, Latin American. Descendants of mixed marriages are known as mestizos or Taisoy. During the Spanish colonial period, these mestizos were predominantly composed of Chinese mestizos, blood mestizos, Spanish mestizos, and their mixtures, known as torneos. Today, Chinese Filipinos are fully integrated into Filipino society, with most being descendants of immigrants from Fujian. In the early 20th century, during the American colonial era, it was estimated that there were about 1.35 million pure ethnic Chinese in the Philippines, while approximately 22.8 million Filipinos, about 20% of the population, had some Chinese ancestry, whether from pre-colonial, colonial, or 20th century immigrants. During the Spanish colonial period, mestizo Filipinos represented a significant portion of the contributing population, about 5%. In comparison, a smaller portion of the population, approximately 2.33%, consisted of Mexican Filipinos. In 2023, about 300,000 American citizens resided in the country, and it is estimated that about 250,000 Americans, descendants of Americans and Filipinos, live in cities such as Angeles, Manila, and Olongapo. Other significant non-indigenous minorities include Indians and Arabs. Japanese Filipinos, in turn, include descendants of Christians who fled persecution under the Tokugawa Ieyasu shogunate. Filipino and English are the official languages of the country. Filipino, a standardized version of Tagalog, is widely used in the metropolitan area of Manila. Both Filipino and English are employed in government, education, cinema, the media, as well as in the business sector. The mixing of a third local language, with code switching between English and other local languages, primarily Tagalog, is a common practice. The Philippine Constitution allows for the optional teaching of Spanish and Arabic. Although the use of Spanish, which was a lingua franca in the 19th century, has decreased, a vast lexicon of Spanish origin still permeates the Filipino languages. The biblical origin of the peoples of the Philippines can be traced back to the descendants of Japheth, one of Noah's sons. Specifically, the lineage in question is the descendants of Tagama, son of Gomer, who in turn is the son of Japheth. Tagama is considered the ancestral patriarch of the Filipino peoples, as well as other Asian and indigenous peoples of the Americas and Siberia. Additionally, Filipinos also have an ancestral connection to Ham, another son of Noah, specifically with one of the tribes descended from Ham, historically associated with peoples of black skin. This connection to Tagama is not limited to genetic heritage, but also manifests in the physical characteristics of Filipinos, such as almond-shaped eyes and dark hair. Such traits indicate an Asian origin, in line with the descent from Tagama. It is important to note that Tagama is identified as one of the most distant ancestors of the Filipino peoples, but not the only one, suggesting a diverse ancestry that will be explored further. The ancestry of the Filipino peoples is not limited to the lineage of Tagama, son of Gomer and grandson of Japheth. The light or bright skin tone of many Filipinos also suggests an influence from the tribes descended from Ham, known as Hamites. The genetic combination between the descendants of Tagama, with their almond-shaped eyes and dark hair, and the Hamite tribes, associated with darker skin tones, resulted in the diversity observed in the appearance of the Filipino peoples. This combination gave rise to the light or bright skin tone of many Filipinos. Additionally, the name Tagama has an etymology that can be associated with broken or pulled, which relates to the characteristic of almond-shaped eyes, both of Tagama and his descendants. The second ancestral father of the Filipino peoples is undoubtedly Ham. The light or bright skin tone of many Filipinos reflects the Hamitic influence, integrating into the genetic composition of the Filipino peoples. Therefore, the Filipino peoples are the result of the combination of the lineages of Ham and Japheth, specifically Tagama, and one of the Hamitic tribes. This genetic combination explains the light or bright skin tone of many Filipinos. In conclusion, the origin of the Filipinos can be traced back to Japheth, through Tagama, and also to Ham, represented by one of the Hamitic tribes. The analysis, based on chapter 10 of Genesis, highlights how these lineages contributed to the formation of the Filipino peoples. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to follow the upcoming episodes of this series.